Hello everyone, today I want to tell you a story about a single moment that changed everything. It's about pink confetti, a frozen smile, and the exact second a woman realized her mother-in-law had been writing a different story all along. This is the wrong pink. The confetti cannon sits on the patio table like a loaded promise. Esme Winters stands beside it, one hand resting on her rounded belly, the other gripping her husband Marcus's fingers so tightly her knuckles have gone white. 50 guests crowd the backyard, phones raised, faces bright with anticipation. Golden hour light spills across the lawn, turning everything soft and warm. Everything except Thaddeus York's smile. Marcus's mother stands in the front row, perfectly positioned. Her linen dress is crisp despite the heat. Her posture is flawless. But her eyes are locked on that cannon with an intensity that makes Esme's stomach twist. Thaddeus has been circling this moment for weeks. Dropping hints about boy names. Mentioning her late father-in-law's baseball glove, still in the attic, waiting. Just waiting. Esme counts down. 3, 2, 1. The cannon explodes. Pink confetti erupts into the golden light. Pink streamers. Pink powder. Pink everywhere, drifting down like cherry blossoms, like celebration, like the future Esme has been dreaming about. The crowd erupts. Cheers. Squeals. Someone starts crying happy tears. But Esme isn't watching the confetti. She's watching Thaddeus. The older woman's smile doesn't fade. It dies. It dies so completely, so instantly, that for a heartbeat Esme wonders if she's having a stroke. Thaddeus's mouth stays curved upward, but everything behind it has gone dark. Her eyes widen. Her face drains of color. Pink confetti lands on her shoulder, in her hair, and she doesn't brush it away. She just stares at the cannon like it's betrayed her personally. The cheering around them starts to falter. People are noticing. Marcus squeezes Esme's hand, but he's looking at his mother now too, and there's something in his expression that Esme has seen before. Fear. The kind of fear that comes from a lifetime of reading someone's moods, of knowing when the storm is about to break. Thaddeus's lips move. At first, no sound comes out. Then, barely a whisper, but Esme hears it across the sudden quiet. No. The word hangs in the air. Then Thaddeus screams. 2 hours before the scream that would shatter everything, Esme Winters was arranging yellow balloons in her backyard. She'd chosen yellow and white deliberately. Neutral. Safe. A palette that wouldn't give anything away before the big reveal. She stepped back to admire the art she'd spent 40 minutes perfecting, then heard the front door open without a knock. She didn't need to look. Only one person walked into her house like she owned it. Thaddeus York had arrived early. Of course she had. Esme heard her mother-in-law's heels clicking through the kitchen, heard the rustle of shopping bags, heard that particular sigh Thaddeus made when she found something that displeased her. Esme took a breath and went inside. Thaddeus stood in the kitchen, surrounded by bags from an expensive baby boutique. Blue bags. She was pulling out decorations. Blue streamers. Blue confetti. A banner that read "It's a boy" in glittering letters. Esme felt her stomach tighten. Thaddeus, we talked about this. The decorations are neutral until the reveal. Thaddeus waved a hand dismissively. Oh, sweetheart, I know what we talked about. But I also know what I know. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Call it a grandmother's intuition. Esme tried to keep her voice light. We don't know yet. That's the whole point of today. Don't we though? Thaddeus was already replacing Esme's yellow streamers with blue ones. The York family has produced boys for 3 generations. Marcus was a boy. His father was a boy. It's just how we are. She said it like it was a genetic certainty, like biology bent to the York family will. Esme watched her own decorations being dismantled and felt something cold settle in her chest. This wasn't the first time Thaddeus had rewritten Esme's choices. There was the wedding dress Thaddeus had selected after Esme's choice was deemed too simple. The house Thaddeus had found because Esme's preference was too far from family. The career path Thaddeus had encouraged because Esme's ambitions were too demanding for a future mother. But this felt different. This was about Esme's baby. Her body. Her child. "I actually need those yellow streamers," Esme said, reaching for them. Thaddeus held them out of reach, laughing. "Trust me, darling. When my grandson arrives, you'll thank me for thinking ahead." She emphasized the word. Grandson. Like it was already decided. Like the baby growing inside Esme had no choice but to comply. Esme's phone buzzed. Marcus texting that he'd picked up the cake. Guests would start arriving in an hour. She looked at her kitchen, now drowning in blue, and felt the first whisper of dread. What would happen if the balloon wasn't filled with blue confetti? What would happen if Thaddeus's certainty met reality? She pushed the thought away. It would be fine. Thaddeus would adjust. She'd be surprised, maybe disappointed, but she'd adjust. Wouldn't she? In the backyard, Esme's carefully neutral decorations swayed in the breeze. Inside, Thaddeus was already rearranging everything to match the future she'd decided on. And in 2 hours, that future would shatter into pink confetti and screaming. The pink confetti hung in the air like evidence at a crime scene. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Thaddeus's face did something Esme had never seen before. It wasn't shock. It wasn't disappointment. It was betrayal, raw and ugly, twisting her features into something unrecognizable. "No," Thaddeus said. Her voice was quiet. Deadly quiet. "No, that's wrong." Marcus laughed nervously beside Esme. "Mom, it's not wrong. It's just pink. We're having a girl." Thaddeus's head snapped toward him. "I said it's wrong." The backyard had gone silent. Esme could feel 40 pairs of eyes on them. Her cousin Sarah was still holding her phone up, recording. Thaddeus took a step forward. Then another. She was moving toward Esme now, and something in her gait made Esme's stomach drop. "You told me the ultrasound was unclear," Thaddeus said. Each word was precise. Controlled. "You said the technician couldn't get a good angle." Esme's mouth went dry. I said we wanted to be surprised." "You lied." The accusation landed like a slap. Esme heard someone gasp. Probably her mother. "I didn't lie, Thaddeus. We chose not to find out early." "That's not the same thing." Thaddeus's laugh was sharp enough to cut. "Oh, you found out. You knew. You've known for weeks, haven't you? And you let me plan. You let me buy everything. You let me tell everyone." Marcus finally moved, stepping slightly in front of Esme. "Mom, that's enough." But Thaddeus wasn't looking at him anymore. She was staring at Esme with something that looked like hatred. "Show me the ultrasound paperwork." Esme blinked. "What?" "The paperwork. From your doctor. Show it to me right now." The demand hung in the air. Esme felt her face flush hot. Around them, guests were starting to murmur. Someone's plate hit the ground with a ceramic crack. "I don't have it here," Esme said slowly. "It's at home." "Of course it is." Thaddeus's voice was rising now. "Of course you don't have it. Because you're lying. You did something. You influenced this somehow." Marcus's hand found Esme's. His palm was sweating. "Mom, that's insane. You can't influence a baby's gender." "Can't you?" Thaddeus whirled on him. "There are procedures. Selections. She works in healthcare. She has access." The murmurs were getting louder. Esme heard her aunt whisper "Oh my God" somewhere to her left. This was happening. This was actually happening. Thaddeus was accusing her of, what? Deliberately choosing to have a daughter? In front of everyone they knew? I want to see a doctor's note, Thaddeus continued. Her voice was shaking now. I want proof this is natural. I want to know you didn't manipulate this. Esme felt something crack open inside her chest. It wasn't fear anymore. It was rage. Get out, she heard herself say. The words came out steady. Clear. Thaddeus froze. What did you say to me? I said get out of my house. Esme's voice didn't waver. Get out of my yard. Get away from my family. For a moment, Thaddeus just stared. Then her face did something worse than anger. It crumpled into victimhood. She turned to Marcus, eyes already filling with tears. Are you going to let her talk to me like this? After everything I've done? After everything I've sacrificed? And Marcus, her sweet conflict-avoidant husband, just stood there. Frozen. Paralyzed between the woman who raised him and the woman carrying his child. Esme felt her heart sink. She knew that look. She'd seen it 100 times before. He was about to apologize. He was about to ask her to calm down. He was about to choose his mother. Again. But Thaddeus wasn't done. Not even close. Before Marcus could move, before anyone could intervene, she did something that would be replayed on social media for weeks. She stepped up onto one of the white folding chairs. Her heels dug into the fabric as she steadied herself, one hand gripping the back of another chair. The entire backyard went silent. Even the children stopped running. Every phone in the vicinity swiveled toward her like heat-seeking missiles. Esme felt her stomach drop. She knew that look on Thaddeus's face. It was the same expression she'd worn when she'd corrected the florist at Esme's wedding. When she'd sent back Esme's choice of paint colors for the nursery. When she'd told Marcus that Esme's career was cute but not sustainable for a York wife. This was Thaddeus in full control mode. And she was about to make a speech. Marcus finally unfroze. He took a step toward his mother, his hand outstretched. But Esme grabbed his wrist. She didn't know why. Maybe she needed to see how far this would go. Maybe she needed witnesses. Maybe she just needed Marcus to see his mother for who she really was. Thaddeus cleared her throat like she was about to give a toast. Her voice carried across the yard with practiced authority. I want everyone here to understand something. The York family has a legacy. For generations of York men. Builders. Leaders. Men who shaped this community. Her voice cracked with emotion, but it wasn't sadness. It was rage dressed up as grief. My husband. My father-in-law. My grandfather-in-law. All of them waiting. All of them watching from heaven. Waiting for Marcus to carry on the name. Esme felt Marcus's hand trembling in hers. Someone's phone chimed with a notification. A baby started crying somewhere in the crowd. Thaddeus's eyes swept over the guests, landing on Esme with surgical precision. And now that legacy ends. Because she couldn't do the one thing. The one simple thing. Her voice rose, shaking with theatrical anguish. The York name dies with this mistake. The words hung in the air like poison. Esme heard someone gasp. Heard her own mother say "Oh my God" under her breath. Heard the unmistakable sound of multiple people hitting record on their phones. Marcus jerked forward, finally finding his voice. Mom, get down. Please. But Thaddeus wasn't finished. She pointed at Esme, her finger shaking. I gave you everything. I welcomed you into this family. I helped you buy your house. I introduced you to the right people. I made you a York. And this is how you repay me? Tears were streaming down her face now, but her voice was pure venom. You couldn't even give me a grandson. The silence that followed was suffocating. Esme stood there, one hand on her belly, feeling her daughter kick. Feeling 30 pairs of eyes on her. Feeling the weight of every recorded second. And something inside her shifted. Not broke. Shifted. Because suddenly, with perfect clarity, she understood. This had never been about the baby. This had never been about gender or legacy or family names. This was about control. This was about Thaddeus losing her grip on the one thing she'd spent years carefully constructing. Her son's life. his wife, his choices, his future. And Esme had just become the first thing Thaddeus York couldn't control. The party emptied like water through a broken dam. Esme stood in the center of her backyard, pink confetti clinging to her shoes, and watched them go. The neighbors who'd arrived with wrapped gifts and congratulations. Marcus's college friends who'd driven 2 hours. Her own sister, who squeezed her hand and whispered she'd call tomorrow. One by one, they filtered past the balloon arch, past the dessert table with its untouched pink macarons, past the photo backdrop that now felt like evidence of a crime scene. Car doors thunked shut in the driveway. Engines turned over. Taillights disappeared down the street. And Esme just stood there, her hand resting on her belly. Her daughter still moving inside her, oblivious to the wreckage above. The wind chimes on the porch rang softly, the only sound left besides the distant hum of traffic. Marcus was inside somewhere, she thought. Probably with his mother. Probably trying to calm her down, explain her away, smooth over the jagged edges of what had just happened. He always did. Esme looked down at the confetti. Pink. Such a harmless color. Such a joyful color. And suddenly, with the clarity that only comes in silence, she started remembering. Not the party. Not the meltdown. But everything before. Her wedding dress. She'd wanted something simple, ivory, off the shoulder. But Thaddeus had taken her to a boutique in the city, insisted on a gown with a cathedral train and beaded bodice. It's what a York bride wears, she'd said. And Esme had worn it. The house. They'd been looking at a cozy craftsman near the park, walking distance to her work. But Thaddeus found them this one. Bigger. Better neighborhood. Better investment. Marcus had signed the papers before Esme even saw the inspection report. Her career. She'd been a graphic designer, freelance, flexible. But Thaddeus knew someone at a marketing firm. Corporate. Stable. Benefits for when the baby comes. Esme had taken the job. Hated it. Stayed anyway. Every choice. Every milestone. Every decision that should have been hers and Marcus's alone. Thaddeus had been there. Hovering. Suggesting. Steering. And Esme had let her. Because it was easier. Because Marcus loved his mother. Because she'd told herself it didn't matter, that these were small things, that keeping the peace was worth it. But it wasn't small. It was a pattern. A carefully constructed cage built one polite suggestion at a time. And tonight, when Esme had finally done something Thaddeus couldn't control, couldn't steer, couldn't fix with money or connections or sheer force of will, the mask had come off. This was never about a grandson. It was about ownership. About Thaddeus losing her grip on the life she'd designed for her son. And Esme had just become the first crack in that design. She looked up at the house. The lights were on in the living room. She could see shadows moving behind the curtains. Marcus and Thaddeus. Still talking. Still negotiating. Still pretending this could be smoothed over. But Esme knew better now. She knew exactly what this was. And she knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that it was about to end. Esme stood in the doorway. The house was quiet now. Most of the guests had left. A few stragglers lingered in the kitchen, whispering. She could hear Marcus's voice from the living room. Low. Pleading. Still trying to reason with his mother. Still trying to make this okay. Esme felt something shift inside her. A door closing. A lock turning. She walked through the hallway. Her footsteps were steady, deliberate. She wasn't shaking anymore. The living room came into view. Thaddeus sat on the couch, arms crossed. Her face was set in that expression Esme knew too well. Righteous. Wounded. The victim of everyone else's unreasonableness. Marcus stood near the window. His shoulders were slumped. He looked exhausted. He looked like he'd been having this same conversation his entire life. Esme stopped in the doorway. Neither of them noticed her at first. Thaddeus was mid-sentence. Something about how she'd only wanted what was best. How she'd sacrificed so much. How no one appreciated her. Esme cleared her throat. They both turned. Marcus's face flooded with relief. Thaddeus's expression hardened. Esme looked at her mother-in-law. Really looked at her. And she felt nothing but clarity. "You will never speak to my daughter that way." Her voice was quiet. Calm. Thaddeus blinked. "Excuse me? You will never speak about her the way you spoke today. You will never make her feel like she's a disappointment. You will never make her feel like she's not enough." Thaddeus stood up. Her face flushed. "I was upset. I didn't mean." "Yes, you did." Esme stepped into the room. "You meant every word. And I'm done pretending you didn't." Marcus moved toward her. "Esme." His voice was uncertain. But he was looking at her. Really looking at her. Esme reached for his hand. He hesitated. Just for a second. Then his fingers closed around hers. Thaddeus saw it. The shift. The choice. Her son's hand in his wife's. Her face went pale. "Marcus." Her voice cracked. "You're going to let her speak to me this way?" Marcus looked at his mother. Then at Esme. Then back at his mother. "Mom. You crossed a line today." Thaddeus's mouth opened. Closed. She looked between them. Her eyes were wild. Desperate. "I'm your mother. I know. And I love you. But Esme is my wife. And this is our daughter." Thaddeus took a step back. Like she'd been struck. "You're choosing her." Marcus's grip on Esme's hand tightened. "I'm choosing my family." The silence that followed was absolute. Thaddeus stared at them. Her face was a mask of disbelief. Of betrayal. Of something crumbling. Then she grabbed her purse. "Fine." Her voice was brittle. Sharp. "If that's how you want it." She walked toward the door. Stopped. Turned back. "You'll regret this. Both of you." Esme met her gaze. Steady. Unflinching. "No. I don't think we will." Thaddeus left. The front door closed behind her. Not a slam. Just a quiet click. Final. Marcus let out a breath. It sounded like he'd been holding it for years. Esme squeezed his hand. They stood there. In the quiet. In the wreckage. In the beginning of something new. The house felt different after Thaddeus left. Lighter. Like someone had opened all the windows and let the stale air out. Esme and Marcus stood in the living room. Surrounded by pink confetti and half-eaten cake. The remnants of a party that had become a battlefield. Marcus turned to her. His eyes were red. "I'm sorry." His voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Esme. For all of it. For every time I should have stood up and didn't. She wanted to be angry. Part of her was. But mostly she was just tired. And relieved. And grateful that he was finally here. With her. I know. She squeezed his hand. I know you are. They sat down on the couch. The same couch where Thaddeus had sat so many times. Directing their lives like a conductor with an orchestra. Telling them which house to buy. Which jobs to take. Which friends were acceptable. It's going to be different now. Marcus said it like a promise. Like a vow. We're going to do this our way. Esme nodded. She felt the baby move. A small flutter. A reminder of what they were protecting. We need rules. She said it gently but firmly. If she wants to meet the baby, it's supervised visits only. Marcus didn't hesitate. Agreed. And no comments about gender. No comments about how we're raising her. No undermining us in front of our daughter. Yes. He pulled Esme closer. All of that. She gets to be a grandmother, not a dictator. Esme leaned into him. Felt his heartbeat. Steady now. Stronger than it had been in years. What if she doesn't agree to the boundaries? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then that's her choice. But we're not negotiating. Not anymore. Outside, the evening was settling in. The sky turning that soft purple blue. Crickets starting their song. Somewhere down the street, a car door closed. Life going on. Normal and quiet in theirs. Do you think she'll come around? Esme asked. I don't know. Marcus sounded sad but certain. But I know we'll be okay either way. We have each other. We have our daughter. That's what matters. Esme thought about the future. About teaching her daughter to set boundaries. To recognize manipulation. To know that love doesn't come with conditions and control. She thought about breaking the cycle. About being the mother she wished she'd had. The mother-in-law she wished Marcus had. I'm going to protect her. Esme said it out loud. Made it real. From all of this. From anyone who tries to make her feel like she's not enough. Marcus kissed her forehead. We both will. They sat there as the light faded. As the house grew quiet. As the weight of years of people-pleasing and conflict avoidance finally lifted. It wasn't a perfect ending. Thaddeus was still out there. Still angry. Still convinced she was right. But Esme had something now she hadn't had before. A partner who chose her. A voice that had been heard. A line in the sand that wouldn't be crossed. She touched her belly. Felt the baby move again. You're going to be so loved. She whispered. So protected. So free. And for the first time in a long time, Esme believed it. 6 months later, Esme stood in the nursery she'd designed herself. No input from Thaddeus. No compromise on the soft lavender walls or the constellation mobile that turned slowly above the crib. Just her choices. Her daughter, Lily Rose, cooed from the changing table. Her tiny fists waved at nothing in particular. Esme smiled as she fastened the last snap on Lily's onesie. The one with the little foxes that Thaddeus would have hated. Too whimsical, she would have said. Not practical. Esme's phone buzzed on the dresser. She glanced at the screen. Blocked number. Her stomach tightened. She knew who it was. Thaddeus had tried 17 times in the past month. Voicemails that Esme deleted without listening. Text messages from new numbers that Marcus blocked. Even a letter that arrived last week, addressed to baby York, as if Lily didn't have her own name. As if Esme hadn't chosen it deliberately. Carefully. Without permission. The phone stopped buzzing. Then started again immediately. Esme picked up Lily. Held her against her chest. Felt the warm weight of her daughter. The trust in that tiny body. Lily didn't know yet that her grandmother had called her the wrong gender. That she'd been rejected before she was even born. And if Esme had anything to say about it, Lily never would. She walked to the dresser. Picked up the phone with her free hand. Watched the blocked number flash. Thaddeus was persistent. Esme had to give her that. 6 months of silence from Esme and Marcus, and she still believed she could force her way back in. Still believed that if she just tried hard enough, they would break. They would let her back into their lives on her terms. But Esme had learned something in those 6 months. Boundaries only worked if you enforced them. Every single time. No exceptions. No holidays. No special occasions. No, but she's family. She touched the delete button. Watched the call disappear. Then she opened her voicemail. Saw the new message waiting. Thaddeus's name wasn't attached, but Esme knew. She deleted it without listening. Lily made a small sound. Not quite a cry. Just a question. Esme looked down at her daughter. At those wide dark eyes that looked so much like Marcus's. You're going to grow up knowing you're enough, Esme whispered. Just as you are. You're not going to spend your life trying to earn love that should have been free. You're not going to shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations. Lily blinked. Yawned. Esme kissed her forehead. Breathed in that perfect baby smell. Marcus appeared in the doorway. He'd been up early. Making breakfast. Trying to master pancakes the way Esme liked them. He looked at the phone in her hand. His jaw tightened. She called again? Esme nodded. I deleted it. He crossed the room. Put his arms around both of them. I'm sorry. You shouldn't have to keep doing this. Esme leaned into him. It's okay. I'm not doing it for her. I'm doing it for us. For Lily. He kissed the top of her head. Then Lily's. We're going to be okay, he said. Esme looked around the nursery. At the life they were building. The family they were protecting. The boundaries they were keeping. Yeah, she said. We really are. The phone buzzed one more time. Esme didn't even look at it. She just held her daughter. And chose peace. Some stories don't end with reconciliation. Some end with protection. With the hard choice to walk away from toxicity, even when it wears the face of family. Esme's story isn't about forgiveness. It's about freedom. The freedom to say no. To choose differently. To break the cycle before it ever touches the next generation. And sometimes, that's the bravest ending of all.